Today, we have a really special podcast for you guys. I sat down with Dov and Shevy Oliver, who run the Hillel House at RCC. You guys may have heard of Hillel Houses before and know that they do awesome work, but this is an absolutely super special Hillel House that has had an impact on hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands, and they have really embraced it into their family, and people that are in the college, people out of the college have always loved being part of their home and their organization. So I had an awesome conversation with them, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
Welcome. This is Dov and Shevy Oliver. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
This is Sonny Perlman, in case nobody knows him.
What? I'm Sonny Perlman. And I don't know why I was Chevy, but my brain keeps saying Chevy, which is completely not Chevy.
Well, because the way you spell Chevy for Chevrolet is with a C.
There you go.
So.
Okay.
But I'm
not
a Chevy like a truck. I'm a Chevy like a girl.
Okay, Chevy like a...
But when she meets people who don't know the name Chevy, you do say to them, Chevy like the truck.
You say Chevy like the truck.
Do I?
Sometimes. Just
that makes sense?
I don't say like the car?
It makes sense. So you guys are co-directors of the Hillel in RCC, Rockland County. Did I get that right?
Well, it's Hillel of Rockland, so it's not just exclusive to RCC students.
Yeah, there are other
No, not
programs?
other colleges, but meaning you don't have to be an RCC student to be part of Hillel. It's for college-age students in Rockland.
Right. Okay, so the truth is, that is what makes you guys super fascinating to me, which is that so many people I know that have known you guys don't even go to RCC. So that is really, I'm going to ask you all about that. But
Okay,
before that, you can tell me all about that. But before that, I do want to say that I know you guys for a long time, but I know you first, and I'm going to mention, because you made that awesome camp. What was the name of the camp?
Creative Girls.
Creative Girls. And I had nieces there, the Asher family. And they did, I got invited to the final presentation where they had a musical play. It was awesome. And I think it slightly inspired my wife to make her own camp with our kids, which was more of a nerd camp. I shouldn't say that out loud, but it was like all the different like technology, and they learned coding and awesome. It was such a cool camp, but it was somewhat inspired by your camp. But I've seen over the years your guys' creativity. Now I know this has nothing to do with Hillel. That was a separate thing. But the creativity that you guys have had seems to be similar to that, because I know a lot of Hillel programs and Chabad programs that are doing things, but some of it is not as creative as what I'm seeing with you guys. So that's a compliment.
Thank you.
Or maybe I just don't know anything, and it's possible they're all doing that stuff, and I have no idea.
It could be they're all a lot cooler, and you just don't get out a lot, and we're just way behind. But we'll go with what you said.
No, we've been coined as the coolest Hillel.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when she says that, she coined it, but that's okay.
I was going to ask,
You didn't have to say
who
that.
coined it?
No, really, it was the New York Times and some other major news outlets.
Right. On Conan. When you guys went on Conan, he said
Chevy
that.
actually once met Conan.
Oh, yeah, that's a good story.
No way.
Yeah.
That's a
Wanna hear
name.
the
That's a
story?
serious name drop.
Yeah, you want to hear the story?
I actually think Conan's really awesome. Yes. How'd you meet
It
Conan?
was, okay, so do you remember the bagel place on the west side? What was it called? Like, it was open really late at night. They closed it. It was on the West Side Highway, and it was very popular. It was like in a garage, and it was open really late at night, a kosher bagel place. And so me and my friend, we were actually in RCC at the time, and we were studying. We thought it was cool to go into the city to study, because we were just like a typical Muncie kids who wished we weren't in RCC, but an actual real college. So we would drive into the city sometimes and like study in like these cafes in the village that are open really late.
Right.
And on the way back, we stopped at the bagel place, and we see this guy, and my friend goes, "I think that's Conan," but he didn't look anything like he looks on TV. Like, first of all, he's really, really tall, like double my height, and he had no makeup on, so he actually looked like a normal person. and like redhead and whatever. Anyway, she was like so excited. This was before cell phones. So we're holding our text, she's holding her textbooks, and she's like, "Oh my God, Conan!" She puts her textbooks in his hands, like plops them in her, and she's like, "I gotta get your autograph." And he's like standing there holding her textbooks, and like, what am I doing? Like while she goes to get a pen, decide to get an autograph. Remember autographs?
I remember
before
autographs.
selfies. Yeah,
It's still happening.
That sounds like her. We should give her a shout out.
Oh, you're saying people are not getting autographs because of selfies?
Yeah, no. What if you meet a celebrity now? What are you gonna do?
Well,
I don't
Get out
think
a
I would
pen
do anything.
I mean, whatever.
well
like,
you asked me for my autograph. You don't want your listeners to know that you asked me for my autograph?
I'm a little ashamed of it.
Yeah, fair enough. But I do want to give her a shout out. Her name is Hadassah, and she's about to make Aliyah.
oh yeah.
So,
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the girl you were in
Yeah,
RCC
my
with.
friend.
Wait,
That
so
was-
I have a
this was
lot
like
of questions on that
20-something
story, and none of them are about Conan.
Something years ago. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for
So
getting
you
tangential
went,
here.
you went to RCC?
I did.
Is
I
that
was-
where you guys met?
No.
Wait.
We didn't meet. Well,
So you went to RCC,
I went to
but
RCC.
he's from Australia, right?
Yes.
Okay.
he
I
was
knew
here
he sounded a
studying
little
for-
weird.
Yeah, exactly. He was here studying for his smicha when we met, and I
Okay.
was finishing up at RCC. Yeah.
Yeah.
We met in Brooklyn.
And you just happened to end up back at RCC. How did that happen?
Well, it's a long story, but one thing I can tell you is it was not what was planned. So, like, I grew up in Australia, Chabad, very much inspired by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. My parents were Makara through the Rebbe and most of our community, and I wanted to be a shliach. And I literally said to myself, there's only one job I don't want to do when it comes to, like, the world of Chabad shlichus, and that is at a university, college, campus. I didn't want it.
Right.
I was like, they're too young, they're annoying. Now I've confirmed that. And I was like, I literally was thinking about working in an old age home. Like I could have been in Fountain View, you know? That,
Really?
Yeah, that was like my dream. Because
Old people think he's hilarious.
yeah, they laugh at my
Because his
jokes.
dad jokes were like always a
Right.
thing, not just now. Like that was always.
and like these kids, they just roll their eyes at my jokes, and it's disappointing. So I thought like I'd work at an old age home, or maybe like have a community, like shul, something. And I remember saying to Chevy, I said like, we could do anything, but I just don't want to end up at a college.
Right.
And I've been there for 15 years. But Chevy had already gone to RCC. We met because I was here basically to find a wife, because there weren't that many options in Australia. It's a small Jewish community, small frum community, small Chabad community. I'd already gone out with two girls. Two girls didn't want to go out with me. And then that was it.
That was
So-
the only girls.
yeah, that was everybody. And so I was like, okay, we'll just come over here to Crown Heights, to Brooklyn. I was teaching in
You were
Williamsburg.
finishing your.
Yeah, I was doing my
smicha.
smicha. I was teaching a little bit. And, you know, I got set up with a couple of girls. Those were, like, disastrous. And then I told the matchmaker, like, forget it. I don't think you really know what I'm after. And I'm, like, about to hang up the phone on her. And she's like, no, just give me one more chance. And she says, you should go out with this girl. Her name is Chevy Machnik. And the funny thing about it was, I had been in Tzfat.
Wait a minute, like pictures, Muchnik?
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
dad.
Like the books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just made me very excited.
Yeah.
I just had on Tali Yes. You
Yeah.
guys know Tali
Yeah,
Yes?
of course.
Yeah.
And I was fanboying out like crazy because of his father's
Yeah.
work. And oh my God, double decker purple school
Yeah.
bus,
School
and
bus.
school bus. And I knew, I figured out at some point. I'm like, oh my God, that's Muncie.
Mm-hmm.
The double, like Muncie Trails.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you have a shul in the
But
bus.
I think it was before Muncie Trails existed, because those
Was
books
it?
are from 1970 something. I don't even know if Muncie Trails was a thing. I have to ask my dad.
But that is my father-in-law.
You just made me so excited. I'm sorry.
And
You should have him on your next podcast, by the way.
Could I have him on my
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah.
Could I?
but
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
but
Why are
he-
you rolling
You got
your
a good
eyes?
connection.
No,
Yeah.
because
Son-in-law.
I'll tell you why. Because he's
No, they're
already
best
like
friends.
we're very close. I worked him for years. We're besties. But I don't know if you'd want to have him because he's very, very high profile. He's like a real celebrity, and you're trying to like uncover like you
Right.
know, hidden gems.
The hidden gems.
Yeah, he's been on 50 podcasts. Do you still want him?
Yes.
Okay, so then he's the exception.
Now that
then.
he's got a connection.
But I do want to mention to you.
I never
actually,
I never even thought that was a possibility.
it's funny you mentioned Tali Yes because he's a very good friend of ours. And he's actually played at a whole bunch of Hillel events, and we love having him on Shabbatons and different things. And actually, today is his father's yahrzeit. Today, Moshe Yes's yahrzeit.
Okay.
So, and he was, we all just loved his
Oh my
music
gosh, we
growing
grew
up.
up with Moshe Yes, like.
And actually, today's also the yahrzeit of the Baba Sali. It's pretty special day. And yeah, we were just in Morocco actually last week, and the Baba Sali is like everywhere, and people talking about him, and it was incredibly special. This past week in Shul, I was hearing all these stories also about his connection with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, his connection with the Tasha Rebbe, and like just, wow, there was some major stuff going on over there. And actually, Chevy's father, who we were just talking about, his coming to Torah and Mitzvahs and becoming Baal Tshuva was actually very much inspired by the Abu Chatzera family, which comes from the Baba Sali.
Right.
So there's a lot of full circle, or ADD, or like,
wow,
just Fabrengen.
You just went, I'm a little dizzy.
I know.
But
me too.
Welcome to our life.
I'm a little dizzy. That was a lot of connections you just made.
Anyway, we should just say, L'chaim, that neshama of Moshe, yes, should have an aliyah.
And it's Rabbi Sheh. I'm calling him right after this.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And
what an amazing podcast. You got to watch that podcast. He played these songs.
Oh, I'm going to
do that. At the end, it was heaven.
I've got to catch up on all your podcasts. I see you've had like awesome people on.
We've had really cool people on. It's been a lot of fun.
Josh.
Okay, Chevy, you got to move it a little closer to me. Okay. Because I think we're going to overpower you.
Okay.
With, okay, so you guys met and you ended up, it's really interesting. Wait, I'm cutting you off one more second. I have exact same thing because I've been working at night for 20 years, 25 years, really long time. And the one condition I made when I got married is that I want to be home at night with my family. And there's some way the universe works out that you just don't get what you want.
Yep. Yep.
I got the wife I want, but I have to work at night.
I feel the same way.
They say don't say the one thing you don't want because that's what you will get.
Don't say it.
Yeah, just don't say it.
Also, I also found out that everything I've ever made fun of adults when I was a kid, like I remember this adult used to make fun that they had like a little like scratching over here, and then all of a sudden I'm doing it. And everything I made fun, it just ended up happening to me. I don't know. Different moles. Just saying. Don't make fun of people. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a good takeaway for sure.
It's coming back to you.
So just to explain that. So I came here, I met Chevy. My dream had always been to run a program which was called Chabad of Rara, which stands for Rural and Regional Australia. To put it in more like relatable terms, like Chabad of the Outback. And basically I'd done that when I was single.
So basically no people.
Well, not a lot.
Few and far between.
A lot of desert.
Yeah.
Very a lot of religious kangaroos.
Yes. And so that was my dream. It was basically a friend of mine, who was actually my father's classmate growing up. He had traveled all around Australia, literally in what we call a caravan, what you call an RV.
Right.
And just finding like Jewish people all over like the countryside who had moved away from the community, who had gotten lost, intermarried, just become completely disconnected, and bringing them back, or bringing Yiddishkeit to them. And I did it when I was single with some friends of mine, and this was my dream job, but I couldn't do it without a wife, so I came here to find one. And when we were set up, there was a bit of either miscommunication or an intentional, I don't know, deception is a strong word.
It's actually just called a lie.
A lie,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But
that's
it was all
what
meant to be.
Shadchan do.
No, I'm really
right?
curious.
Yeah, no.
Well, you know what they say, Shadchan is Rashi Teva Sheka Dova Kesef Neitel. They tell you lies and take your money. But in this case, it worked out.
I like that.
Basically what happened was that I had no intention to ever live in America. Even though I've lost my accent, sadly, I'm very Australian. You
haven't completely lost it, I'm just telling you.
I know. People think I'm from Boston. It's insulting. But anyway, I never, ever considered living in America. And I came over here, and I told, like, the matchmaker, anybody I knew, like, don't set me up with any girls. So we're not happy to move back to Australia, and this is the job that I want to do. I want to run this program, Chabad of the Outback. And when Chevy and I were suggested, so basically the matchmaker sort of just twisted it. She said, look, this Chevy, she's very adventurous. She loves to travel, which is completely true. She'd been all over backpacking Europe, all over Africa, all around. And she loved to travel, and she's very adventurous. Doesn't mean she wants to move, 17,000 miles away for the rest of her life. Me, I'd been offered a job in Florida, where I'd worked at a Chabad over there. So that's what they told my future in-laws. Like, yeah, he's going to move to Florida. So then New York, they're freezing. They're like, hey, that's great. We'll go to Florida and, see the kids.
Right.
And my parents thought, okay, so she's happy to come here. So we don't, And then it was, I think, on our second or third date or something. It was snowing.
No, it was way past that.
Really?
Yeah. No, it wasn't in the beginning of our dating. It was like towards like closer to when we were like getting serious, and you mentioned
Here's the thing: we didn't date for very long. Chevy likes to tell people we dated for like years. We actually dated for a few weeks.
Okay.
And so yeah, the time's a little skewed. But one thing I can tell you, it was snowing.
Yeah.
And Chevy said, "Oh my gosh, I love the snow. It's so pretty." And I said to her,
I love to
You'll
ski.
never see it again.
Right, exactly.
well, not like that. What I said, well, if this works out, there's not a lot of snow in our future. And she agreed. She's like, yep,
Florida.
doesn't snow in Florida. What are you talking about? It doesn't snow in Australia. And the next half hour was pretty awkward. Like,
I was just like, take me home.
Nice.
Maybe you thought that. Did you actually say that?
No, but I was definitely
Right.
like, this is not happening.
Anyway, we got over that, and then we just got engaged. And I spent 2 years fetching and just trying my best to convince her to move to Australia. We lived in Brooklyn. I worked for my father-in-law, Michal Machnik, legendary artist, and we had a great time. We traveled all around Florida and California and all around New York, tri-state area, doing exhibitions of shows and selling his artwork.
So cool.
And it was great. Chevy was in college at the time. And after 2 years, I guess she finally cracked, and we moved to Australia. And I promised her at the time that we're only going to move for 3 years, and I'm going to do this Chabad of Rara, which was my dream, my vision.
So you actually moved to Australia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
we lived there for 3 years, and we really set it up, the organization. We were the first full-time people that ran it, and we traveled all over with incredible adventures, going all around, Australia, meeting Jewish people, building little communities, etc. And then after those years were up, I wanted to keep my word, which I was sort of, there was this like assumption that I was basically just trying to steal the American wife, and really then she should just fall in love with Australia and never come back. And a couple of people, Chevy's grandmother, Chevy's brother, they both sort of said to me, yeah, we know this whole 3 years thing is, you're just trying to, take her forever.
Right.
And I didn't want them to be right.
Okay.
So when it came time, the opportunity came up at RCC, and I said, okay, it's time to go. And we moved here. We've been here for 15 years.
I think it's almost, is it 16 already?
I think it's 15.
15 years.
In the middle,
Mm-hmm.
we almost moved back to Australia because basically I was like having just a lot of FOMO, and I thought that I'd hand over the organization and it would just be like beautifully run by the next guy, but that didn't really happen. And so then I basically agreed to move back, and Chevy caved in to move back. And we had like 7 goodbye parties. I found somebody to take over at the college. We found somebody to buy our house. And then at the last minute, for a whole bunch of reasons, it was like, color war. And we didn't move back.
You didn't move back. Do you still want to move back?
No. I mean,
Does
listen,
he still want to move back?
No, he doesn't talk about it anymore. Finally gave it up.
Yeah.
No, but you have to realize, like, when
Finally
we
gave up.
first came, Hill was so different than it is now. Like, we came, Hill, it was like that sort of typical model. Like, most of the kids that were coming were from, like, more progressive Jewish backgrounds, like conservative Reform kids from New City. And there were like a sprinkle from kids that were showing up into Hillel, and we were like, basically our attitude was like, okay, this program's not really for you. Like we didn't really, we were catering to like the kids who don't know a lot about their Judaism and then want to learn more. And then like over the years, and I think like in the beginning, we both didn't really have patience for the kids coming from backgrounds, because what they would do is they would come in and they were like, had so much baggage and like, negativity associated with their Judaism, and they would really influence badly the kids who were coming in that wanted to learn more about their Judaism.
Right.
So it was that typical model of like, like I would say like a standard Hillel or Chabad house. And then over the years, different things happened where we shifted our perspective in terms of like what our purpose, or I guess you could say, is being here, like being in the Hillel. I think that was around
mission,
the same
like
time.
mission
Yeah,
changed?
like I don't know. No, our mission didn't change because our mission is still the same. We just want to have like a welcoming environment for all Jewish kids, whatever background you're from. But I think that we became more accepting, that like for ourselves, that
More
like
comfortable. We
more
became more
comfortable with like, oh wait, like this is a really interesting, like this is where we're meant to be. And like we sort of embraced that whole new, I guess you could say, demographic of kids that were coming in like larger numbers, and we were not like being snobby to them anymore.
It's interesting because that is, I mean, I think the most unique part of your program. Meaning you do not see this in anywhere. I haven't seen it.
Honestly, I mean, I don't know if you've never really been to like our Shabbos table or whatever, but like
I haven't.
you like look around and you're like the extreme like differences of people's backgrounds is so it's like you could laugh. Like you have a kid who's coming from who's like half Muslim and half Jewish. With together like besties with like a kid from New Square, and they're like coming from such different worlds, and like and in between that there's like the typical like, but there's just everything, and that's
so how is it balanced? How do you guys balance it?
Well, it's interesting, like what Chevy was saying. Like in the beginning, it was like from kids would come and they'd have a lot of baggage, and they would almost intimidate. They would almost intimidate the Jasons and the Sandras and the Lisas and the Maxes who were like wanting to just be part of Hillel, and I would almost have to tell them like, guys, like this isn't a good fit, like. And then I tried to do different programming, even almost like sort of streamline the crowd, and at a certain point, it just really like dawned on me that like, you know what, they're all just Yiddish kinder, one way or another, different types, different stripes, different backgrounds, different stories, but like this can all work, you know what I mean? And that's really what we've seen. Like Chevy was saying, like I remember this one kid like sort of ran away from U Square, wasn't really connected with his family very much, and I slowly was able to like make some progress with him. In the beginning, he was like, "Stay away from me. Like I don't want anything to do with rabbis. You're all the same." It was actually really embarrassing because when he told me that, the president of the college of RCC was like right there, and the president's like, "This is our rabbi, and you're Jewish. You should give him a chance." He's like, "I don't like rabbis." I felt like telling him the same thing, but anyway. What ended up happening is this kid who literally like pretty much ran away from U Square, the first Seder that he'd been to in years was he became friendly with the son of one of the rabbis here from like one of the big Reform synagogues, and that's where he ended up, and that was like his first sort of stroll back towards just being involved in any type of Jewish life. And then he did come to Hillel, and then he went on Birthright, and then he went on another study program to Israel, and he's doing good things now, but there is really a very, very big range. But what I've come to realize now, like, without using labels and terms, but like a lot of our work is inner reach, and it's really geschmack. It's like with just kids that like, have somehow not had the greatest experience in the community, whether that's schooling, whether that's at home, whether that's that they had, issues that weren't addressed or were addressed in a way that didn't work for them. And we're just pretty much giving them a warm place, fun place, and
non-judgmental.
Yeah,
right.
And
but how much is fun involved in this experience? 'Cause I keep seeing you guys putting out awesome things.
Everyone has a different idea of what fun is, right? So
okay.
We try to like cater and have like vast, programming so that we want to keep it also educational, not just like a party, but it is, I think that our main goal is to just give positive Jewish experiences. So nothing, again, it depends who we're dealing with, but a lot of the current, I don't like to call them kids because it's not even
crew.
A lot of the current crew, are, like we said, from just have had negative experiences.
Why don't you want to call them kids?
Because they're not. Well, first of all, we have like a huge alumni.
When you hit 40, you can call everybody kids. Can we?
Because,
it's disrespectful.
And I don't.
If they're under 40, they're kids.
I know. And I don't like. I don't like to be an ageist, and I think a lot of them also consider themselves my friend. And I feel like if they heard me saying that they're a kid, they might feel like,
The truth is some
I think I'm superior or something.
No, like some are kids. Like we have a Shabbaton coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to be at SUNY Albany.
Right.
And it's going to be with like another 200 college students from other colleges. The students that are signing up for that are mostly 18, 19, 20, maybe 21. You can call them kids, but we have like a whole plethora of
alumni.
People that come to our events who are
young adults, young Jewish professionals, I would call them already.
What I'm saying is they're divorced, they've got kids, they're, in their mid-30s, they're in their late 20s, they've had all types of experiences. They're not that much younger than us, And I just, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
refer
Okay,
to
so
them as
that's
kids.
interesting. So that was a good clarification because Hillel, in general, is not known to have people in their 30s in
Right.
their program.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are unique in the way that like we're at a community college, so some of them are students. Like it's not
But
that
you guys have people that are like way past being students, right?
Yeah, I'm saying we really have like a mix, and that is what makes us unique. We really don't discriminate. Obviously our main core are RCC students or have a connection, and then it sort of grows from there. And we'll never be like, oh no, you don't belong here because you're. But sometimes we have the challenge of like catering to like a 35-year-old and a 17-year-old who just graduated high school, but.
But it's also like, I guess when you use the word community, like Chevy was saying, people from different backgrounds, we also have just people who just somehow come into our sphere of our programs, and it can be really like unique. Not even that they fit anything that fits in with a Hillel or Chabad or in reach or outreach or anything. They just somehow arrived, and they might be very people that come consistently. And what's beautiful is to see those interactions. Like, for example, like there's this woman. She's great. Her name is Sherry. I don't know if she'll ever listen to this. If she does, hey, Sherry. And I was once with my daughter at, Kakiat, and like my daughter loves dogs. Her name's Rafaela. And she went running over to this woman, and because she had these two beautiful, like white Labradors, or golden retrievers or something. And she just connected with them, and I ended up talking with her. And she hadn't really had a great Jewish experience of let's say, the Orthodox community, and she didn't know a lot, but, she's Jewish, and her mother's Jewish, and they're from South Fallsburg originally, or something like that. And we really hit it off, and like we became like her Jewish connection. And so she would come to Shabbos meals and Yom Tov meals and parties, Purim parties, like Ba'omer, Hanukkah parties, whatever it is. Sometimes she would bring her dogs, and I ended up actually, sort of becoming somewhat like her family rabbi. I officiated, funerals of both of her parents that passed. And, when you see like someone like that, like she's in her like, I don't know, mid-50s, sitting next to some kid who grew up in Vishnitz and like, had a rough experience and doesn't wear a yarmulke anymore and has tattoos or whatever it is. And you see them interacting, and then like next to them is somebody, who like basically ran away from Lakewood because she also had like a terrible experience, and they're all just getting along. Like, it's just, I love it.
Right.
We love it. And that's why it's really just a major kaleidoscope of characters that exists.
So this is why I've never asked any other Chabad rabbi to come on. I'm just completely fascinated by you guys, and I've been chasing you a little bit, or playing phone tag.
Yeah.
I don't call it chasing.
It's a shame that phone tag you don't like burn off calories, because we did a lot of phone tag.
It was a lot of phone tag, and it just that sometimes I'm very attracted to people that are doing some things similar to me in a different arena. So what we're doing
was that
here,
arena pun intended?
Yeah, I wasn't. I was going to say pun intended, but most people wouldn't get it.
I got
the
it.
last program was called Arena. So, what my like biggest focus in life is building these communities. And when I think of like Hillel or Chabad or like Chabad on campus and stuff like that, I think this is a 4-year experience where you come and you have a rabbi there, and you probably stay in touch for another year or two, like little phone calls, and you move on.
Right.
What I see with you guys, the building of this, I would never say a community about almost any one of these programs. It's like the fact that you guys have this, it's a community. Like even like the fact that you have people in, the 30s with people that are 18. That's what a real community looks like. You walk into a shul, you're going to see people all different ages and different experiences. So what I guess my question is like, because a lot of people that are coming to you are actually people that have like fallen out of the system in general. That's been my experience, and a lot of people coming from the Orthodox community that are going off to college that maybe their families wouldn't want them to go to college, and all those guys. Are these people coming, are they seeking another community, and how much are you getting involved in their lives in terms of like helping them move forward in their lives? Because I feel like you guys have an enormous amount of people that need help.
Right.
As opposed to if you go into like, if you're in Syracuse and they're just in college doing their
More
thing.
standard, yeah.
So I think people are like looking for your program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this your experience?
That was all really well laid out.
I
And
could be
good
your
question.
PR person.
I'm going to hand it off to the lovely Shevitson. They call her the Shevitson, by the way.
Shevitson?
The Shevitson is like Chevy and Rebbitzin equals the Shevitson. Did Shmaya
Yeah, I think
coin that term?
he did. And he got
Yeah, he
everyone
likes
to
it.
follow.
Big shout out to Shmaya Honick.
Shmaya Honickman.
One of the best
who worked for
dudes
me
out there.
and is very close to you guys.
Yeah, and the lovely Yecheved and Little Bear. Good people.
That's right.
Was there a question?
Do you remember the
Or-
question?
No.
No, I
Were you
wanted.
listening?
Yeah, I was. I thought it was a comment.
Okay, so maybe it was a comment.
Yeah.
No, I just was talking about these similarities between. My whole thing is building these communities
Right.
to help people grow and get better.
Right.
And I'm seeing this with you guys, and it's very untypical of campus
Right.
Chabad
We're,
or
I mean, look,
Hillel or
we're very different than the typical Hillel Chabad model. First of all, because it's a 2-year school, so and it's a community college, so people are living at home. So that already, we're going to
okay.
be different, okay? So there's no, like I always say, RCC, it's a joke. It's 2 years to life because no one really ever leaves. And if they do leave to a 4-year school, they come back because this is where their parents are. And so already we're not that typical home away from home college, right?
begin with, yeah.
To begin with.
Right.
But then on top of that, we live in a very unique town, I guess you could say. And we're just dealing with so many different types of people coming from so many different backgrounds who really are looking for a community that haven't found their place. And I think really what they're looking for is just someplace where they could feel comfortable and be themselves. Like, it's not that complicated. It's like people look at us and they're like, oh, are you like, you're the rabbi and rabbits and you're like trying to make people religious? And we're like, first of all, if you know us, you know that that's definitely not what we're doing. But it's like, no, we just want people to have, like I said before, that positive connection that for some reason they didn't have up until now, or acceptance. Really, that's like what it boils down to. They for some reason, or it doesn't necessarily mean that they had some traumatic experience, but where they are in their formative years of their life, that they need community, like you said,
Right.
someplace where they could just feel comfortable. And for so many, was your question about like, do they ever like move on and go someplace else, or was it, what was your?
No. I was pointing out the uniqueness. Okay, forget the
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
wanna-
Yeah.
I think I wanted to kind of pick your brains about what you think is going on, because this is a very unique thing, and it's smack in the middle of a Jewish community.
Right.
You guys live right in the middle of Muncie, where there are a couple of Chabads. There's one in Brooklyn. What's the guy who started my extended family? What's his name? Rabbi, you know who that is?
Yeah, Rabbi Vigler.
Rabbi Vigler. So Rabbi Vigler is like in middle of the like typical, we call it snag community. What do you call it?
If you want to be racist, that's on you.
I can be racist. I've been told I am not a snag, even though I am a snag. I don't know how, but that's my.
You don't come across that way to me.
Okay, right. I'm not the typical snag, but like right in the middle, like Rabbi Vigler lives. He's smack in the middle of Flatbush, right? And he's like converting all the regular Flatbush people to be good Chabad Hasidim, you know what I mean? So it's very rare. It's generally you guys go out into the wilderness, into the outback and find Jews that are completely unaffiliated. But you guys are smack in the middle, and you're dealing with people that are looking for community.
Yeah.
The people coming to you are looking for community. So what do you guys think is going on? Like, what is happening? Do you get involved with their families?
Yeah.
Stuff.
It's a good question. Look, I think what's happening is that Yiddishkeit is beautiful, community is beautiful, and the life of Torah mitzvahs is beautiful. It's also really intense. It's also demanding. There's a lot of expectations, and not everybody can fit in, or should need to fit in to exactly the model that that their community or their family is expecting of them. And I think that's really that's been since the beginning of time. The whole reason that like Moshe Rabbeinu got the job to go and be the Goel Yisrael was because he ran after one Shepsela, which was off on its own.
Right.
And Moshe, Hashem looked at that and said, "Okay, that's what I need. I need people to look after the people that don't fit in 100%. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them whatsoever." So I think that, like Chevy was saying, we started off coming here and thinking this is going to be more of like a regular arrangement, like you're in college, you can put tefillin on people, teach them about Shabbos candles, take them to Israel. And it's...
And we still do that,
Yeah, we still
Right.
do all of that, absolutely. I was actually just lucky enough just 2 days ago to put on tefillin with a friend of mine, someone who works with a friend of mine who was 27 and just putting on tefillin for the first time, and he was all like excited and it was so beautiful. So, that still happens. But I think that people still want to be connected.
Right.
Just because they don't want the exact variety and the exact version that they grew up with or they were told is the right way, especially when you're talking about, we have a lot of kids come from Monroe. We have kids, Vishnitz and, some kids who end up here from Williamsburg, from Tosh, from all over, or just Passaic, Lakewood, Crown Heights, like everywhere. Sometimes people have joked like our program is almost like an Ir Miklat, where like people just
Right. That's how I
running
see
away
it.
and joining. So what I think is most of those people, thank God, see something really beautiful and they don't want to give it up. They don't want to move to like, Wyoming and just like never have anything to do with Jewish community again, but they can't handle the, the full on experience. I think we're able to give them something which is basically they can enjoy, they
Well,
can
and I think we're
digest.
also, we're giving them a space where they can like make this their own, like find their Judaism for themselves without any other outside pressure for like, no one's telling them what to do, how to do. It's like, oh, I really like that about, Judaism. Let me pick that and, and let that be my thing. And they didn't have that space, a lot of them, like before. And by the way, that's not just talking about kids who grew up religious. That's everybody.
Right.
And so it's like, we're here to sort of like help them, like, first of all, like, if they are leaving their, the way they grew up, like you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like you can make this your own, find it on your own and take what works for you and the rest throw it away. That's fine. Like just make it you.
Right.
And so I think that that's like our main mission, our main goal is like that, just to bring the positive, the joy, to.
Okay, so I am cutting.
And
you
then
off.
there's like the whole mental health, like, aspect as well, like, which is I guess how we also got connected, which
Right.
is so many of these
So that's-
of
yeah,
our
that's where-
constituents are just looking for like TLC love, acceptance, and on just a very basic psychological level, like they just need a friend, you
Right.
know?
Well, sometimes they need a lot more than that, like what you were asking about, like how involved do we get? And it is sometimes tricky, but when you have people that are showing up and you're meeting them, whether it's at a Shabbos meal or at a Purim party or something that we do, and then you get to know them, you ask them the questions, and I'm not shy, and neither is Chevy, like we'll get right to it. They'll tell us about major traumatic experiences that they've had and that have impacted them or still impacting them, or major conflict going on in their family, in their home, in their lives, or also sometimes just real like financial needs. And like sometimes we can help them, sometimes we can direct them. And we are here in Muncie. It's a fantastic community with so many great organizations, and there's a lot of other ways
Resources.
that we can exactly that we can connect them with.
And
that
you're
can
doing
help
this
out.
often?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
if I'm calling Temche Shabbos, they know me and they'll understand. And if I vouch that this is a legit situation, they'll help out. Whether we're it's Aravim, Amodim, so many other great organizations that we can all work together. And then also I'm lucky enough to have it's incredible. The supporters that we have out there, people in the community that prioritize supporting Hillel because they want to partner with us to give support and love and community to our crew. It inspires me. I really mean that. Like I look at people and I have to call them up. Like, listen, can you help out this one with that? Sometimes people can't make a wedding. People literally, single moms who like are fighting with their ex and they just don't have money for dentist bills or whatever it is. There's so much that goes on. Unfortunately, I've had to be involved like in restraining
I wouldn't say
orders and all types of
unfortunately.
messes that
I'm
go
like
on.
completely inspired by this.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying this does not seem typical. I don't know what made you guys take on this extra responsibility. I'm assuming.
It just sort of gravitated. It
Yeah.
just sort of floated in, and it just became a part of our work. And what's interesting is some people are like not into it. Like some people that I need to fundraise, part of my work is covering our budget. And they're like, listen, Dov, that's not your issue, man. Like, just don't get your hands dirty with that. Like, there's people who'll take care of it, and then there's other people who tell me, listen, Dov, I don't need to give you money for Parsha and pizza and for like your programs. But if somebody's in trouble, if somebody really needs help, then you come to me. It's really interesting. You have people who are coming from both perspectives. Like I have, in my mind, I'm thinking now certain names. This guy. They want to help people who are in strife, and then you have other people who
there's no shortage.
Yeah, there's a shortage of people who want to help.
Right.
And it's it's sometimes it's so complicated. Like I'm really just thinking this as I'm talking to you, that it is very, very uncommon, but like it's just really worked out. And really over the last few years, and also somewhat with Corona, it's become more like that, where really, well, obviously with Corona, like we weren't able to be on campus as much. Like the college was literally closed.
Right.
And then, masks and vaccines and the whole everything. It was very difficult to run our robust programming, which we'd always been doing. And what we did at that time, we basically did a major, major expansion at our home, where our house is really big now, and we're able to have big events. I mean, last Purim, probably like 400 people rolled through the house at one point or another. We had a bunch of Megillah readings.
Neighbors loved that.
Yeah, neighbors.
No, well, they're good neighbors. We just had a wedding at our home, which was like
your home.
Yeah, in our home. It was like a last minute thing. It was like 80 people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a beautiful sit down wedding. Penny Shechter, the music was great, and
nice.
We had. I mean, it was really Mati Samet, shout out, and he did a great job, and it was just fantastic. It was a beautiful thing. We've had big Sheva brachas. I've had bris, like I've had a bris at our home. I sort of love what you said before. Podcast, there's like don't count as lashon hara, but anyway, I'll leave out the names anyway. But somebody.
Penny was on this podcast.
What's that?
You have to listen to Penny's podcast.
I gotta listen to Penny. We love Penny. Penny is the man. But we had like a girl from home.
Mm-hmm.
Who came to RCC, and at one point things just drifted, like for a very unstable family, and she ended up becoming pregnant with somebody who she wasn't really connected with and wasn't of the faith of the Hebrew nation. Right. And it was like, what am I going to do? And she came to speak to us, and we said, listen, we're going to support you. You want to have this kid, whatever you need. We'll have the bris. She knew it was going to, boy, by the time she came, so she already knew. I said, listen, you want to have the bris? We'll have it here. We'll take care of the food. We'll take care of the meal. We'll take care of everything. And, when the kid needs to go to school, you'll let us know. We'll help you. And that's exactly what's happened. And so we had a bris at our home. And, the house has become just this, like, beautiful vehicle for hosting. Like tonight, for example, it's just interesting something Chevy said also about, picking and choosing. Like we have this program called Challenge and Chill. It's most Thursday nights, often at our home, sometimes at homes of our students or supporters. And basically it's like a parasha shmooze, which I give, or like a guest presenter. You're welcome to come anytime. And then after that, it just sort of like becomes like a kumsitz. And there are like students who are like, literally, they'll check in. They'll be like, okay, when's the shir over? I'm only coming for the kumsitz.
We've noticed, by the way, just side point, that music is just like the best vehicle for uniting people and bringing people together of different,
Right.
It's just.
I mean, you add
almost
food
all
to
of
that.
our food, yes, that's obvious. But
the
we
classic.
always have good music at our events because it's just become like, now it's like expected.
Yeah, I always see it on your WhatsApp statuses, the
Yeah.
musicians. It's like awesome.
Yeah. No, it's just because it's, when you ask that question about fun,
Yeah.
I just think people need that. They need the lightness. Like, but there's so much, like, crap. Am I allowed to say that on a podcast? In the world now,
Too
like
late,
people,
you did,
yeah.
so.
Well, it was nicer
Crap
than the other word I
works.
wanted to say. So, but like we just need that. We need like light, unity, fun,
Right.
but also wholesome, like just wholesome experiences. And there's so much. I mean, we could start talking about like how there's not real connection anymore because of the phones and all that. But like that's just what people are craving. They're craving connection in a meaningful way, like where they could come, they could sit, they could chill, music, whatever,
Right.
And so sometimes it seems like, oh, that's sort of silly, like that's what your organization does, just a bunch of parties. But I think that's what's needed now. So
I think it's,
it's and also, as he just said, there's like so much that goes on behind the scenes that we don't share or talk about,
Right.
just helping people in crisis, which is like,
Interesting. You might find this line interesting. We had one of these like chant and chills a few weeks ago, and this kid from like Hasidic background, he's like the super nicest kid. Always helps set up and clean up, and he's just a super mensch. But he's completely estranged from his family, and he stayed, and like sometimes they go really late, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Often I just go to sleep and like pretty much hope I wake up in the morning.
what do you mean? I've woken
Everything's
up
still
at
there.
like, because I get up really early and there's kids still there at like 4:30, 5:30.
Yeah,
Still-
sometimes. But
And you're not usually exactly like,
No, and I'm like, I'm in my
Yeah, yeah.
pajamas and I'm like, wait, you slept over? They're like, no, we didn't go to sleep yet.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, especially like during the summer, we have like bonfires in the backyard, and people can really just hang around forever. But this interesting line. So this kid, he left me a voice note on WhatsApp. He's like, Rabbi, I had such an amazing time last night. He's like, last night for me, like the singing and just being with everybody and meeting new people was so special. It was worth at least 3 months of therapy. Right? I play you that.
No.
And like Chevy's saying, like it's the connection, and like a lot of these kids have grown up with academic expectations, religious expectations, and you know what? That's not what we're pushing. Now,
Right.
do we teach? Absolutely. As we say, Torah is the best schira. You know what I mean? We have classes, we have opportunities. We've run different classes where actually you get like a stipend at the end for coming to enough classes. We're thinking about doing something more like that, where you like earn like a trip to somewhere like exotic or fun, and we bring in like interesting presenters. We have Rabbi Wiley Jacobson come quite often. We love him. The group loves when he comes and talks, and other people that
Awesome.
bring, and we have like meaningful programming, educational, learn about new things. But I think really the main thing is to just like come and enjoy, just a space to enjoy.
I mean, and not only like we talked about we do a lot of music and comes, but like one thing I've noticed over the years, I mean, something I'm very passionate about personally is like being in nature. And so we started like this Hillel hiking group, and like it became so popular especially over COVID, where just like that was our place where we connected. And like, it was like, I can't even tell you how many people out of that, like where I like sort of introduced hiking to them, where it became their thing, where now they go hiking. And it's like sometimes we just, I don't know, we get so caught up in this like,
how often does that happen? The hiking group.
oh, it's very active every day.
All the time, even
Yeah.
during the
Wow.
winter, even
Yeah.
in this weather.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that I'm the most active, but I've been on a bunch, and we also
And
have
other
Chevy's
things,
very into
like-
biking. She
Okay, so I
has
just
biking
want to
group,
say,
skiing. She's like
okay, well,
very athletic.
I knew I liked
Calm
you
down.
guys, but I didn't know enough about you. But now I'm completely in love. But what I'm saying is, I'm
Because
a
of my
little
dad,
bit.
I know.
First of all, it's your dad. I'm a little starstruck right now. I'm getting over it. I'm a little bit of what I call it off the derech therapist, because I am not off derech as in terms of Judaism, but in terms of therapy world. I started as a therapist and was very focused on therapy as the modality of helping people. And after all these years of working in this, I realized that all that doesn't matter until you have connection and community. Meaning, you need the therapy, you need the rabbi, you need the education, you need all the tools of life. But without the community, it's basically useless. It's like helping. Like my allegory is like, if you have a great therapist and you have a homeless guy in Manhattan, he goes to the top therapist twice a week, to the top therapist, he's not going to grow at all. Like, he will have a great therapy session and go straight back to the street, and he'll live his whole life like that. You need that strong community. And what you guys are doing, so a lot of the interesting things, even I'm hearing you talk, is a little bit like, yes, we also do more. When you're talking to me, like, you hit a home run with the community piece. Like, all these people, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, because they have a community, can use that as a springboard to get healthy. Like, that is the springboard. Like, what we're doing in our village is all about building a strong, supportive community. And then all the therapy starts working. Actually, over here, for the first 2-3 months, we see guys like floundering, I don't know, therapy, not therapy, I want to go to meetings. I mean, about 3 months in, when they feel secure with the community, like, everything starts to blossom. So are you guys seeing that? Because to me, this is a home run to me.
Absolutely. I mean, what you're saying is true. When you build, I really like the example about like the homeless person. You can help someone as much as you want. If they don't have a community, I mean, that's who we are. Like we're like a kahila,
Right.
Klal Yisrael. And we find that when we set this up and people feel welcome and start coming around, it can really open doors for them. It can open doors for relationships. People meet people.
And we didn't actually count, but I started like trying to count of how many matches have been made. We're not shadchanim, like we don't set people up.
Right.
But so many people I've met through Hillel and are like married now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's.
But what I was saying, that's true.
They should be paying you something.
Yeah. The truth is, actually, you were talking about Purim and COVID, and we have a great couple that literally came to our COVID Purim party, super spreader event, and they met there, and they were the first time they laid eyes on each other was in our home at the Purim party, and now they're Baruch Hashem, like happily married. They're just an awesome couple, and so that goes on. But what I was trying to say is, like, once you create a community, good things can happen. So we really like to help people find jobs. People are always calling us, like, college students, are they available for this? Do they know how to do IT? Do they know fashion? Do they know organizing skills? Like, who can I hire? And we're really trying to help people. And also, once our supporters like get to meet our students, like often in their homes or in our home, then they've been hired. There's a bunch of people out there now who are working and have jobs by coming to Hillel. There's people who have been connected with good therapists. There's people who have been, like Chevy was saying, like discovered like something which is really great for them, like hiking or biking or swimming or skiing or different things, which like sometimes in a more closeted environment that you grew up in a community, you just never even like really considered that. And really like that's what we want to do. We just want to help these people be productive, feel good about themselves,
healthy members of society,
have good self-esteem.
I like it.
Help them with with their mental health. And sometimes that's not direct. It's really just by like being part of it, and then developing a certain confidence that like I'm part of something, and I've got a network, and I've got a resource, and that actually gives me the most nachas. It's funny, like I think about my parents in Australia, and my father likes to often say like the word like B'cheinu v'inu kolanu ke'echad, like it's like asking Hashem bless us all, but really the way he breaks it down is like, when will Hashem bless us? When we're together. And I've seen that like when these groups come together and they meet and they look after each other, and like this person's like ran into an issue with their parents, and they're like don't have anywhere to stay for a month, and some other Hillel kid that they met, like they go and move in with them and they like support them. Like that's the biggest. Just seeing how
like community doesn't necessarily mean like they've built their own like little friendships and communities. Not necessarily like we facilitate, and then not necessarily is it like, oh, we only meet at the Oliver's home or at a Hillel event. It's like there's like a bunch of sub communities of that's and I think that's one of our big goals is that they just make their own community for their future and connection.
It's awesome. Okay, personal questions.
One second before you get to that, I just want to say
I want to ask personal questions.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's I have one question. I know this is boring, right? This is boring stuff.
It's interesting.
It's interesting.
It's a tricky space because like as I mentioned to you, and I don't know how this works for you, but like I'm responsible for like most of the fundraising. So much of my life, I'm almost ashamed to say it ends up being like basically self-promotion, like, even like my WhatsApp status, my supporters see it.
You got me. You got $18 from me. Easy.
Oh, great. $18.
I'm just saying.
That's it. We got $18. Let's retire.
You can make a whole nother program.
Moving to Aruba. Great. But what I'm saying is like, it's something which I'm sort of forced into, because if I don't put it out there, whether it's a charity campaign or whether it's an appeal or something coming up, people aren't going to know, and you can't also just call somebody once a year and be like, oh, I do wonderful things. Like I haven't heard from you for a year. So like being on this podcast, which is actually really relaxing and enjoyable.
Yeah. Much more chill than you thought, right?
Yes, definitely.
So much better, than running for an hour today.
Yeah. And I told him
you'll still run for an hour. Don't worry.
You're going to start a podcast right after this. It's so easy.
It's very enjoyable, and it's relaxing and schmoozing. We've got Ellie over there smirking away in the background. But at the same time, it's like it's an awkward spot because we're basically talking about how great our program is. Right. But what I'm realizing as I'm sitting here is, which perhaps I don't connect with that much for myself, is it is really great, and and we are really proud of it. But I guess like there's a certain ambivalence because I always am telling people how great it is, but I'm doing that more in a work setting. Like I have to tell you how great it is because I need you to support it.
Right.
But like even
but I always say like
what
goes on I always say is like a microcosm of what should be going on, like especially here in Rockland. Like
Right.
there's so much discrimination against people who are not like you know, like you grew up with, there's so much animosity with the non-religious and the religious and this one and that one and the communities. It's like, come to our Hillel room, even on college campus, you know, and look around at just the different people and how they're shedding those discriminations and how they're like starting to, like their biases, you know, and
Right.
starting to really like connect and understand each other. Where else is that going on? Where else is that really going on? Like where there's no competition, where there's no other, you know, anything on our campus like Jewish, you know, organization. Everyone comes together to the same place, no matter where they're from. I just say, like, why can't we be doing this everywhere? Like, why are we so
I agree.
caught up in these, like, I'm this is my background, this is my label. Oh, all of the, you know, I'm not going to say.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that because in this area, there's a lot of animosity between the Orthodox and the non-Orthodox.
But I think,
There's a
like,
lot.
I think what
You guys
goes
are
on is
bridging
like
this.
we're really like breaking stereotypes. I would say is like one of the things that since the beginning, since we walked onto campus 15 years ago, that was like I felt like that was my job. Was like people were like, oh, you're religious, but you're also like nice and you're also cool and you're also, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's so corny. Like yes, I'm a human. I'm not just like a religious
That's
person.
true.
You know.
You know, I'll
It's
tell you a
like-
funny story. Like what Chevy's saying. When we began at RCC, I was told by like professors who'd been there for a while and some of the administration, like, listen, all you need to do over here to be successful is don't make a bad name for the Jews. Don't mess up. Basically, don't make a
Right.
Chil Hashem, you know. And as long as you do that,
Do no harm.
You do no harm, because there is like a lot of stigmas between religious and not religious over here. Anyway, I decided to myself, okay, I'll take that advice. And like 5 minutes later, I walked past a bake sale, which was going on in
The student union.
Student Union, whatever, one of the buildings. And it was like the Asian Club or the Haitian Club or something. And I just got this idea, you know what? From now on, I'm just going to always buy something. Or like, if it's not kosher, just give them the money and that's it, right? So like I gave them $1. They had some cookies. I didn't want it. I'm like, just enjoy. Obviously I look, yarmulke, tzitzis, beard, and that you just see the smile on their face like, oh, that's nice. Like, I guess the Jews aren't the way that Shakespeare made them out or whatever it is. So anyway, this went on for a few months and it just became a thing. Like I would always just do. And then lo and behold, one time was a raffle and I get a knock on the door. It was like the robotics club and it had like a raffle. And I won, like, what did they call it? A BlackBerry. You know what I mean? Like a
Remember those?
Which was pretty cool then.
And I didn't really need it. I think I actually ended up giving it to like the president of our student club, But I remember I felt like Hashem was sending me a message. Yeah, you do that. Just go out there and like, make a good name and put the best foot forward. And I think that just the same way that we need to like break down, like Chevy was saying, issues between religious and not religious, which exist here in Rockland, which obviously we know it's a major thing in Israel, etc. But it's also between communities,
Right.
And we can do that. And I am proud of our space that people can just come there and from such different backgrounds, and not only different backgrounds but different situations. Like we're talking about little communities. We have this kid who I met. His wife went to RCC, and then I met him later, and then he introduced me to a few friends. And they'd all moved from Brooklyn, literally like run away from Brooklyn. Like, let me just get away from Brooklyn and come to Muncie. There's more trees, And they were here. And I think the first time I met them, they were all like just smoking up, whatever. But they were a really great bunch. And like that was years ago. And now I've stayed connected. And this particular kid, he's done well. He's made a little living for himself. He's found himself an apartment. And like I turn around and it's like I'm trying to get some guests for Shabbos, like from our crew, but they're all going to him. He's like literally had like 12 people buying for Shabbos. And I started asking him, so who's coming? And he tells me all the names. And I realized like 10 out of the 12 he'd met through us.
Stealing
like,
your group.
Yeah, no,
Fine.
but like I couldn't be.
There's more where that came from.
and
Never a problem.
I couldn't be happier. And
That's
so
funny.
that's what you like to see, like for that to happen organically and
He's
people in
passing
different
it forward.
situations. Yeah, but I'm saying like not only about the community or the religious aspect, but just people from different like situations that are somehow finding people and their lives are just better for it. I think that's really
It's amazing.
what it's about.
I feel like you guys are more excited about what you do right now than you were like an hour ago. But that's really
completely
cool.
agree with you.
That's
Or what?
more excited about what you're doing. You got to talk about it.
Because when do
in
we
like
sit down and talk about our
Right.
lives on a what is it, Thursday afternoon?
It happens to be one of my
We
favorite
don't.
things about podcasting is
Yeah.
I get to talk about what I do, and it's something I could be completely burnt out about. Like I'm week ago, and then I'm talking about it,
Right.
and I get excited, and like, wow, we're doing. It's good to like kind of
like
be
zoom out a
retrospective.
little bit and just.
Okay, so
sort of-
personal question.
Okay.
How are you guys doing this together? I always like, that's a terrifying thought for me to work with my wife.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love every minute with her, but the idea of like doing work with her.
I just want to say,
So
Ellie,
let me, I'm asking you guys.
before we answer, I just want to say, Ellie over there is cracking up. He's really looking forward to the answer to this question. I don't know if he's projecting
We need to get an
about
Ellie
you,
cam.
about Sonny, but yeah.
Okay, like I would just like to say straight out.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to work with your spouse.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. But
I love it. I love it.
okay,
She goes right in.
we really like learned, over time. We compartmentalized. We're pretty good at like, this is my role, this is your role. It sort of like fell like organically like that.
Right.
And I think it just took a long time for us to really learn how to, respect each other's space and, in terms of like what we're doing, and also to like keep it separate from our personal lives. It's really hard, especially because of the work we're doing. It's not like, oh, we have a 9 to 5 together. We have a 24/7
Yeah.
together. So like, sometimes it gets really tricky and challenging. We're like, oh, we're supposed to be like having fun and doing something fun together, and something will come up, Hillel relate. Like, but we don't look at Hillel as a job. I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, I look at it as like my kid. They're like my family. These are my kids, and this is my family. So it's like, you could ask like, how do you co-parent? It's kind of the same. I feel like that's sort of. I never thought of it like that, but as I'm saying it,
That's another question I want to ask people. How do they?
how do we? Exactly. So I'm saying we have the same challenges as like parenting.
It's similar. You're saying
have
it's like-
yeah, it's similar. Like we'll have different opinions.
It's actually a
you
beautiful
know,
answer.
But like we sort of make it work, and like I said in the beginning, it's not natural. I mean, like it was my first introduction to therapy. I don't remember how many years ago it was, like 10 years ago when therapy started becoming a thing. And
Therapy
like,
was a thing way before.
whatever.
10
When
years
I
ago.
actually was like, okay, it's time, to actually go to therapy.
Okay.
So the
That's what you're
first, I remember it was
saying.
the first session, and the therapist said to me, "You work with your husband?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, that's just a bad idea. I think you should find something else to do."
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. She didn't even know me yet.
Well, she didn't even know me, and she said
Right.
that.
I like that.
Anyway.
What's your answer?
Look, I look at it a little
Wait, can I
differently.
just say one more thing
Okay,
before you
yeah.
get?
Of course,
I
we're
think
like modeling how we can
Yeah, I like
accommodate
it.
each other in this
I
conversation.
think that it's really, I feel lucky that we're able to, like, we sort of built something together. Like, we did this together. It's something that, like, we have a deeper connection because of it. Like, there's definitely, like, we have like a real purposeful life together. And I think aside from just having kids, which is also, not also, but is the greatest purpose, but this is sort of like an extension of that. It's like we were able to appreciate each other in ways that maybe some other couples wouldn't. I don't know.
Okay.
That's a positive way that I like to look at it.
What do you think?
Cool. Yeah, this
I'm
is-
asking both of you this question because I
that's a
am
good-
curious.
It's a good question. I think
I've never had a couple before. I'm just saying.
By the way, no
so-
one ever asked me that question before, so
For real?
yeah. I don't
no,
know.
'cause
Besides your
Other than the
therapist.
therapist, she didn't ask me. She just said, "Don't do it."
Don't do it.
Right. Well, look, I think in a way it's not a good idea, perhaps, or it doesn't make sense. On the other hand, it's like literally how it all began. In the way I look at it, like Avram and Sarah, it's known from the very beginning. They opened up their tent, they opened up their home, they had their roles. They spoke to this one, they spoke to that one. They divided up the work, and,
Right.
and they did it, and they were pretty successful, right?
Yeah.
I also look, like, even though we keep throwing around the words Hillel, like, our organization is Hillel. We are both Chabad. We are the only sort of Chabadniks that are running a Hillel.
There might
But
be one
essentially-
other. There's one or
Yeah,
maybe two
one
others.
other, but they're not as
Really?
cool as us.
There's two others.
Okay.
Not
But
couples, like single.
You're saying
Rabbi.
most Hillel is not Chabad. Okay, we're not getting into it.
Hillel and Chabad are normally competition on campus.
Right, gotcha,
But we're,
gotcha.
we're also, like we said, a community thing. But anyway, getting off the topic, what I'm saying is that most shluchim out there, or many shluchim out there, they are co-directors.
Right.
The rabbi, the rebbe.
Yeah, I would
they-
ask
they
any
work
one of them.
together.
I'm really curious. about this.
So, we grew up, Chevy and I, with major Chabad influences in our life, and knowing a lot of shluchim, and we saw that, the Rebbe sent them out as couples, and that's if they were going, like we if they were going to South Africa, if they were going to New Zealand, if they were going to, North Carolina, they were sent out as couples, and they divided up the jobs, and they found a way. Now, obviously, at times, perhaps like when the wife was having a lot of kids, she might have had to, scale it back a little bit, and but generally, like the responsibility, the bottom line was between them normally.
Right.
So it's uncommon. Definitely in the Hillel world, it's very uncommon. But in another
I
way,
think we're
it
the
just
only
makes
Hillel
sense.
in the world that is a couple
Right.
working together.
Maybe, but
So that's true. All the shluchim are all
That's
pretty
the
much
Chabad
doing
model.
this.
mostly.
Actually, no. They actually, interesting. Hillel International called us a couple years ago, and they said, we're using your Hillel as a model to start a new organization called Hillel Base. And what Hillel Base is like base, like a throw, a double wording, like as in bayit, like base.
Right.
And where they're starting this new thing where couples are going to be running Hillels in certain cities out of their home. Like this is like, because they said we're looking at the Chabad model and you guys, and it really works. Like people want to have that homey family feeling.
Sure.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, but look, I think that it means that we do spend all our time together, and it means that it's true. Like it's very hard to ever just walk away and just, for me, how it is, phones rule our lives these days. I could get a text at any moment. I just bring up to Chevy like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, for that program that's coming up, or, did this kid get back to you about Shabbos? Like, it sort of never stops in a way. Probably we should, create some boundaries and times and whatever it is.
Right.
But like, I love it. Like, I really wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, Chevy and I have different personalities and bring different things to the table. Like this particular thing about like all the outdoorsy stuff, and also the creative stuff. Like Chevy's father's
It's
an
funny.
artist.
You're Australian. You're supposed to be like Crocodile Dundee, and
Yeah.
she's the one doing the
Right,
outdoor.
that's true. Well, I play golf. So,
It's not a knife.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But what's interesting is not only does Chevy have like the outdoorsy stuff, which people really connect to, she's also very creative. And when we built our home, which you got to come by one day, but there's like a whole bunch of guest bedrooms when people need to stay over. We have like a room with like ping pong and pool table and everything. But one thing which Chevy wanted from the beginning was to designate a room which is just for art. By the way, I mean art. In case you didn't understand me, but it's so and often Chevy runs like it's like on a Wednesday night, a paint night, or just come and create. Now we have a student. Her name is Gila. She's great. She does it. We've had other people who've stepped in and done it. And sometimes people just doing it on their own. And it's like got all the supplies in there, easels and paints and whatever it is. And people can just come in and create. And the whole room is designated, just for that. So what I'm saying is that's something I never would have thought of.
Right.
And I never would have prioritized. So there are just so many things that, then Chevy ran a book club, like she's very literary, so like there's just so many things that she brings to the table. And then there's things that I need to do, like fundraising. And,
Like I am not good at asking people for money.
Right.
And another thing which I'm sort of do is I just nudge people. I just harass people to come to things. Like before every event, like even like tonight we're going to have an event, like I'll get out my lists and I'll just start like,
But I think Sani was asking about how we work together, more not about how like our differences.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that
No,
the
but-
way we work together is we pick the things which are our strong suits,
Right.
and we take care of it, and then it also
Right. So
just
it's
comes
interesting
together.
because I used to do this. I was basically 24/7 with my work, and before I moved to Muncie. So I was in Brooklyn, and all week I worked with the teens and at-risk youth and drugs and addiction and all that stuff. And then Shabbos, Friday night, and Shabbos day, we had open meals. So we had probably 30 guests each meal, which was pretty extreme for that apartment because my dining room was maybe the size of this room, probably less. It was really like crowded in, and it was wonderful. Like people really, really loved the experience, and you guys experienced it all the time. And one of the things, like we moved to Muncie, my wife was like, family time, and it's been incredible. I'm not trying to, like convince you to do this because you guys.
No, I was
are
actually
figuring-
going to like talk
but
about family.
Right.
and kids.
So one of the things that I've experienced is that, and guys are really upset at me because I say they're like, why don't you invite us for Shabbos? And I'm like, Shabbos is just this wondrous experience where I sit around with my kids and my wife. It's brand new to me in a sense. Not that brand new. It's been a decade, but I'm saying before that, the decade before that was not like that, and it's been absolutely wonderful. So like I miss that though. I do miss that experience of like being able to share and having these dynamic Shabbos meals, and but it's been so. So I guess my other question is, like, how do you find family time? Like, this is like a full-time gig you guys are doing,
Right.
You know? So how do you find?
I was
going to
address that before when you asked about working together. So it's like, I would say I get asked more about
The
how do
family
our
time?
kids, how do our kids
okay.
handle this and stuff. You know, it's an open home, and I think that probably because of like Dovy's background, we're in Australia, like family time is so important. Like family is priority, right? In the community, that's like, they're very into family dinners and family picnics. And so from the beginning, we always designated family time with just our kids. No one else. Sometimes we'll even like take a Friday night off and tell people that we were away, you know, and just have us and the kids. And we make sure to like tell her, like show our kids that like you're just as important, but there's going to be times, you know, where the kids, I'm sure, feel like, oh God, there's like, you know, it's my house is like not belong to me or whatever. My parents don't belong to me. But they understand like that they have also certain, there's, especially now that they're teenagers, like their life is fun because we run the Hillel and they're aware of that, you know? So,
Right.
so it's like,
friends like to come over. It's
their
like
friends
the
come
happening-
over
happening-
and so it's
place.
like, you know, you take some, you know, give and take. So I think that, but we always did prioritize just us, family time, and if somebody will, it's very hard to say no sometimes, so somebody will call like, you know, and be like, can I come over for dinner? And we're like designated this night where someone will just pop in, but the kids know that we're never going to turn anyone away, you know?
What's really interesting along the lines of what Chevy's saying is the progression of things, that we have 3 daughters, Baruch Hashem, and there was times when they would be like roll their eyes like, oh gosh, can't we just like have a quiet Shabbos? Like, why do we need to have guests? And now over the last few years, it's really come to the exact opposite, where if
We're getting old and we want some quiet.
I don't know. I don't feel old, but the point is, if we haven't like yet arranged like, you know, a house full of guests with sleeping guests, you know, guests for the meals, because we're like, hello, like we're not sitting and having a boring Shabbos just with you guys. Like you need to like you know, like my daughter would be like, come, I'll help you send out a text. Who do you want? Like I'll make a list. Like who are we inviting? You know, and also now thankfully they cook a lot, which is great.
Yeah,
we
you know, really
they
give
help.
them like those the feeling of being part of it. I think
Right.
that's the big key, is that this is a family thing. Like we do this together. This is not just our job. It's like our family, and this is how we have our home, and you know, like
Which is also how, like we were saying before, that's how shluchim kids
That's how shluchim
throughout the
are.
world are. And it's not only like Shabbos, it's even like programming. Like my daughters will say to me like, so Tati, like, what's happening next week? Like, when's the next Shabbaton? Or like, you know, like what's going on? What, you know, I'm like, are you my boss? Do I answer to you? Like, come on, like, you know, let's do something good, you know?
Right.
Like Purim's coming up, or Hanukkah's coming up. So what are we doing for Hillel? Or like Hanukkah just now, we had like something almost every night. The kids, like, when like a month before, they're like, I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like, that's it? Like, what about a few more things? You know what I mean?
But I just want to say that the
Wow.
question I think I get more than that is about making family time or not, is I get asked all the time how I'm comfortable exposing my children to, you know, these types of people.
Gosh, do you hear the tone in there?
Because I can't stand when people ask me that. I get really like
Well, I got
thrown.
that a lot.
I'm sure you get it too. And I'm sure we have the same answer.
No, I
you know?
used to get it. Now I don't get it at all. 'cause
Oh, right.
They're not exposed.
Right, right.
Totally different.
What,
And-
what did you answer?
What I answer?
When people asked you
I'm
when,
sure it's
when
the
they were
same
more
as our
exposed.
answer.
I don't remember. You tell me. What did I say? I would say that I would love my kids to grow up with a sense of mission, to understand that every person is different. They're all awesome. And if my kids get to see the world as a bunch of awesome people and see past the garbage that everybody else sees, I'll be very excited. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Also, they learned how to do drugs from them and stuff. No, I'm kidding.
It's practical. What were you going to say?
I did not ask.
Yeah, I would answer the same. And I'm like, you know, they're like taking such risks, you know, your kids might. And I'm like, honestly, what I see is the people that are like so closed, that those are the kids that are more at risk than my children. I think, you know, like the exposure why are people so intimidated and afraid? Like, what is that? It's like something in this community that I think is really problematic. People feel it, you know? And I think
But that level of fear is what's making you guys so important, is because we always kind of squeeze ourselves throughout history. Like, we squeeze and squeeze into a tighter and tighter box until everybody is exploding out and wanting to find a new community within the community. It's like there's not even like they're not even upset at Judaism or God. They're just, it comes out looking like that, but really they're just upset with the squeeze that they've been like, don't look at that person, don't look at that person, don't
like
turn
that's
that on.
radicalism, you know, like that's how
Yeah.
it comes in that. Or
You brought up the phone before, because people talk about the phone. The fascinating thing is that why would anybody come to your own events if they have the phone? Like, I think the phone was like social media, and the phone is exactly the reason why they come into your house. Meaning people wanted connection through the phone. And then they realized that's not working, and they're back to the original, like, let's just go and hang out with some
The original
people.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you guys a final question, which is which I ask a lot of people, which is what is, like, if you had a podcast, which you don't yet, which I hope you will.
Just may, soon.
And I plan on being one of the guests on that
sure.
podcast. You could ask me all these uncomfortable questions. What is, like, a mission, like something that you want to, like, yell from the rooftops, like tell the world, like something that's, like, frustrating you or you're dreaming of, or like, what is it? I mean, you guys both maybe have different answers, but what is it you would like to say to the world?
Right.
Let's say many people. There are many people listening to this podcast and watching it.
Well, look, I think, as we said, like the nature of the work has, like, become much more about people who grew up in a religious community, percentage-wise, over the years. And the truth is, like I said, it's awesome. I really, really do enjoy it. It's funny, sometimes I bump into, like, other, you know, Chabad rabbis, and they're like, you know, they're off in, I don't know, Texas, Arizona, wherever they are, and they'll, like, get a taste of what we have. And they're like, you know how lucky you are? Like, we get together, and all these people know is, like, you know, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, and, like, Oseh Shalom, and then we're done, you know? And you guys are, like, doing, like, you know, kumzitzes and, like, you know,
Yiddish songs through the night.
You know, you could just sing for hours and hours and hours, which is exactly what goes on. So, you know, I do love that part of it. And I think that if I was to say something, I would just, like, not just to parents, but just to the community in general, to just, like go easy, like, soften up, like, just realize that kids, young people who are growing up are so impressionable, and the things that we say and the things that we expect from them or pressure them can just have, like, major consequences on that person's, like, self-esteem, confidence, mental health, you know, how they're going to show up in relationships in the future. And I think, like, a mashal that my mother, who's a therapist herself, often would talk about is, like, you know, when a plant is growing and it's in its very, like, you know, formative stages, if somebody tramples on that plant, it's really hard for it afterwards to just grow straight, you know. And that doesn't mean that it can't be beautiful and successful and, you know, have a lot of leaves or a lot of fruit or whatever comes from it. But most plants which get trampled, like a little sapling, whatever you want to call it, at a young age, are going to end up, like, really suffering. And just, like, realize that, like, keep that in your mind when you talk to your own kids, to your neighbors' kids, to your friends' kids, if you're a Rebbe out there, if you're you know, a principal out there. And if everybody just has that approach, like, I really think it's not that hard. I think we could, you know, really eliminate, or at least minimize, you know, a lot of the trauma that's going on. And as you know, working in, you know, addiction and, you know, the substance abuse world, like, a lot of that just didn't need to happen and could have been prevented. Now, a lot of it is going to happen. There's, you know, bad things happen in the world. But, you know, if we just have a mindset of being more tolerant, more patient, more loving, then, you know, maybe one day I'll be out of business and I'll actually move to Aruba.
Aruba? I thought you were going back to Australia. Nah,
It's in
you're done
Aruba.
with Australia.
Oh, he wants to play
Aruba.
golf.
I'm with him in Aruba.
I'm not going anywhere.
I've
with
always heard
no.
Aruba's nice.
I'm
I mean,
not-
it's not as exotic as Muncie, because nowhere is as exotic as Muncie, but I think Aruba is worth a shot. So that's what I would say. Just go easy.
I like it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to basically say what he said, but maybe in different words. Like, really, it's not that complicated. Like, we say peace and love. Like, just that starts at home. That starts, everyone. It's just, when he says go easy, but I'm saying, like, there's so much preventative work. Like, we're dealing so much in our daily with, like, so much baggage and it's not, like he said, it's not necessary. Like, if we would just, from the beginning, I mean, look, I always, like, there was a stage where I was like, I'm going to make, I'm going to change the world and make differences and go in and change the leadership. And there's so many problems in these different communities. And we see so much, we didn't talk about it that much, but we see real horror stories coming, from some of these communities that are just like, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, real, I don't want to say abuse. Just real problems that can be prevented. Dysfunction that could really be just prevented if everyone would just look at people in the eyes, understand where they're coming from, be non-judgmental, accepting. It's just not that complicated. Like, why are we, sometimes I do, and I'm like, look, like, why are we doing this? This should be there. I do wish, I don't think that there's, like, an organization for this, of, like, prevention. Like, there's so many organizations of dealing with, like, the aftermath of the disasters. But how many people are talking or making awareness? Like, I wish there was more of that. I wish there was more awareness for the teachers and for the parents, and just so that there's more of an understanding of, like, what to do if your kid isn't, fitting into that. Or, I mean, it's getting better, definitely getting better. Yeah.
Okay.
Well said.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Okay, you guys have anything else you have any questions you want to ask me, or?
Well, I just want to say that, the work that all this, arena, or our place, the living room, this whole, world is just so important. We do have with ourselves quite a, like, intersection. Some of, like, our real favorites, not that we're supposed to have favorites, have been involved in this community.
Right.
And it's so beautiful to see them going on and helping people through, experiences that they've had. And I think that, everybody out there can just understand that you don't need to have an official title.
Oh,
like,
that was the other thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, you see? There you go. Like, you're in this role in a formal, official setting. This is your parnasa. This is your passion. Us in our own way. But like I was saying about the kid who ended up with the 12 people at his Shabbos table, like, everybody should, like, I think
people should open their hearts to help people. Everyone is going to experience someone coming into their life or whatever it is, and you're going to think, oh, this is out of my wheelhouse. Like, I don't deal with this kind of thing, and they'll just, like, walk away from it. But there are so many resources, and in our community, we're so lucky. There's just, like, pick up a phone. There's, reach out to someone who you think knows someone who could help this person, and you never know what, like, a tiny little action like that can change, make a difference in someone's life. And I think that's, like, also, I mean, people always say, how do you do this? Like, oh my God. I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, I'm just,
Yeah, but I think it's something that kind of is a little bit of my pet peeve. I mean, I get the shout out to the world also. But it's very weird to me that we only have, like, a couple of people doing what everybody should be doing. Like, when I describe what I am, I consider myself like a professional uncle. Like, that's what I do professionally.
Right.
Like, anybody could do about 80% of what I do.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I'm just there. I'm a friend. People know I'm there, and that's it. It's basic.
I accept you and love you, and I'm
Exactly.
excited to see you.
Exactly.
Is what an uncle does when you show up. A
Right.
good uncle. What I'm saying is,
not the rich uncle, though.
rich uncle could be nice too.
Right.
I don't have to beat up on the rich uncle all the time. Anyway, when the rich uncle dies, maybe you get some money. So you got to have a bunch of different uncles. I don't have any of them. Anyway, so
No, meaning, like, people, you don't have to have credentials. This is, like, basic humanity, you
Right.
know? Like, you don't have to have anything after your name to be kind and nice and caring and to make a connection. I would say that. It's like, just make a connection.
I love it. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. It
was awesome
fun. This was
having
a
us.
fun Thursday afternoon instead of doing all the things I need to do.
That's right. And I'm really glad you finally came in. I really loved it. Thank you guys.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.